Today we are going to take a look at Snapchat. They just reported earnings and after hours they're almost up 25%, sitting at $35.28. So today's episode is going to be broken down into the following. First, we're going to take a look at their earnings and I'm going to pretty much mention what I like and what I don't like. We're going to look at all their financial numbers and also some of the highlights for their earnings. And at the end, I'm just going to give my thoughts on the business. And if you are new, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And to everybody else, make sure to hit the thumbs up. It helps the small channel out so much and I truly appreciate it. Like always, everything I say here is just my opinions and should not be taken as advice as I am not a professional. So let's get started. Alright, so like I mentioned, Snapchat is up 24% right now after hours. And let me know in the comments below, right? Are you a long-term holder of Snapchat? What kind of play are you doing with Snapchat right now? And for those that are listening to my podcast and don't know Snapchat's ticker, this is ticker SNAP. So now with this growth in stock price, the market cap for Snap is going to be a little bit over $50 billion. This is insane. And let's take a look at year to date. What kind of ride has Snapchat given to investors? Before today, Snapchat had already returned 69% to investors. So I do believe we'll probably be closer to about 120% after today's earnings. And if you picked up at the low, you are up over 239%, not counting today's up price for Snapchat. This is insane. So congratulations to all you that are holding long on Snap. And before we go any further, don't forget to check that Webull link. I have it on my pinned comment and on my description. If you sign up, we both could get a free stock if you follow the rules. So make sure to check that out. All right, so let's take a quick overview of Snapchat and their earnings. The first thing is Q3 non-GAAP earnings per share were a penny, and this actually beat expectations by 6 cents. GAAP earnings per share were negative 14 cents, which beat expectations by 4 cents. Then we have revenue of $680 million. This is up 52.2% compared to the same time last year. This is some crazy growth in revenue, and this beat expectation by $127 million. That's a very nice beat. I do believe this is probably the first reason the stock price is up dramatically right now. This is going to probably be the second. Global daily active users of 249 million versus 243 million, which was expected by analysts. Guidance was even 242 to 244. So global daily active users beat both expectations and guidance. And for those that don't know, Snapchat, the main way it collects about 98% of its revenue is through advertisement, very similar to Google, very similar to Facebook. And the way to make sure you have revenue is if you have a lot of eyes on you, a lot of businesses are going to come and advertise in your platform. So what you want to see is you want to see an increase of daily active users because this gives the incentives for other companies to come and advertise in Snapchat. Average revenue per user is also up, and I do believe this is another reason the stock is up dramatically. Average revenue per user is $2.73. This beat expectations. Guidance expectations was supposed to be $2.27. So that's a huge beat in average revenue per user, a huge beat in revenue, and also a nice beat in global daily active users. All right, so first let's start off with what I liked about their earnings. The first thing, like we saw, that huge increase in daily active users and that huge increase of revenue compared to the same time last year. Next, let's take a look at their adjusted earnings before all the expenses, right? It's now $56 million, positive $56 million compared to negative $42 million a year ago. I know a lot of people like to look at adjusted earnings, adjusted EBITDA, right? EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, the amortization, and amortization. So those are, I know a lot of people look at that. And one thing I'm going to mention and things I don't like is Snapchat. Right now, it's not profitable, even though their margins are improving. That's a great thing, but it's still not profitable. But when we take a look at this adjusted EBITDA, like many people say it is positive compared to the same time last year being negative. Next, I want to take a look at some of their key highlights for this quarter. The first thing, like we saw, the average number of snaps created every day grew 25% compared to the same time last year. Obviously, this should be expected if you're seeing an 18% year-over-year growth on daily active users. But this also shows that those users are using Snapchat more frequently, right? Because if daily active users are growing 18%, in theory, you would have expected an 18% growth in average snaps, but it actually grew by 25%. So people are snapping more right now. Total daily time spent by Snapchatters watching shows has increased by over 50% compared to the same time last year. If you guys don't know, Snapchat also has some shows online. And we can see, right, all these social platforms are more than just they now do a lot more stuff than just being a social platform, right? We can see here by the shows Snapchatters have. The daily average number of Snapchatters in India watching Discovery content increased by nearly 50% compared to a quarter ago. So again, here they're trying to show you that India is such a huge population, right? They're trying to show you that, hey, we're still seeing crazy growth at this country as well. They are also mentioning that they're launching new unscripted series. For example, the Solution Committee. They also launched a new show with Kevin Hart, which I'm pretty sure is going to be hilarious. And they talked about all the other documents or docuseries they have within Snapchat right now and how well they're going. One thing I'm super excited to see, and this is something I've been actually seeing is a trend in the overall market. Apple was one of the first to confirm it, and now Snapchat is second. They are continuing to invest in camera and augmented reality platforms. And the reason is they're seeing huge growth in the AR demand. So I do believe right now, AR has been here for some time, right? Augmented reality has been here for a few years already. But those companies haven't done so well right now because sometimes you release a product a bit too early for the overall market. Sometimes it takes time for the overall market to accept that new technology or to start using it in the consumer base. Apple and now Snapchat have confirmed that this shift in augmented reality is truly coming into place. So it's something I definitely want to take a look at for more AR companies to look for future growth. They mentioned a lot of different lenses that they're doing. For example, one of their anime style lenses did over 3 billion engagement in the first week. That is insane. And next, they did mention that they saw strength on their ad platform. They kind of mentioned that this was all thanks to that boycott of Facebook. So some of those boycotters came into Snapchat instead, overall increasing that revenue seen by their advertisement segment. Snapchat also gave guidance for the upcoming quarter. They still expect 47 to 50% growth compared to same time last year. This is definitely a huge growth company right now. The company also expects to reach approximately 257 million daily active users in the fourth quarter. So they're seeing both growth in revenue and both growth in daily active users. And here, if we take a look at Simply Wall Street, we can see right now analysts are still expecting a strong growth for Snapchat. It's expected to grow 25% on average for the next 3 years. Like I mentioned, Snapchat is still not profitable, but it is expected to be profitable within the upcoming years. By mid 2023, it should be profitable. When we're taking a look at GAAP earnings, I know if we take a look at adjusted earnings, it might happen a bit sooner. And one thing we're going to see is a lot of money, a lot of expenses is due to stock-based compensation, which even though it's not a cash-related expense, there is still some dilution happening that kind of offsets, that kind of hurts investors. Next, I actually wanted to take a look at some of their financial numbers. And here we're seeing first, we are seeing daily active user increase in all countries. North America, well, they actually only have it in 3 segments. They have North America, Europe, and rest of the world. North America saw 7% year-over-year increase in daily active users. Europe saw 10%. The rest of the world saw 43%. Average revenue per user, like we saw, was a huge jump. It grew 28%. Most of that came from North America. North America year-over-year grew 46%, and North America average revenue per user is the biggest compared to every other part. North America is $5.49 average revenue per users compared to Europe, which is $1.43, and compared to the rest of the world, which is 95 cents. So it's still pretty impressive to see this type of growth in average revenue users for North America, even because it's such a huge portion of the revenue. All right, now let's take a look at what I don't like about this earnings, or what I don't like about Snapchat right now. The first thing is, yes, we saw an improvement of operating cash flow compared to the same time last year, almost a 28% increase, but it's still a loss of 55 million. Operating cash flow is the cash that comes from its everyday activity. So if you're still losing money from there, it's not something I'm too happy to see. Again, we're seeing free cash flow improvement as well, but it's still negative $70 million for the quarter. Another thing is we're still seeing a huge amount of dilution in shares due to compensation. So that's still happening, and dilution is not great for investors. Overall net loss this quarter was $200 million for quarter three. Again, it's still an improvement compared to the same time last year, which was negative 227 million, but a loss is a loss no matter what. And those are some things I'm not too happy about Snapchat. And during the guidance, Snapchat also expects year-to-year expense to grow, its growth to be higher for the fourth quarter than it has observed year to date. So that means Snapchat is probably gonna have a even lower free cash flow for this upcoming quarter four. So there are, with every positive comes every negative. I do want to say they're probably gonna be using a lot more expenses on just trying to grab more users right now while they're seeing this huge growth potential. They're going to use as much money as they can to grab as many users as possible. The other thing I'm not too happy about Snapchat is kind of their balance sheet. Their balance sheet is not horrible, but it's not the best thing, I would say. So right now they have about $800 million of cash, and they have about $1.9 billion of marketable securities. So they have close to about $2.7 billion of quick cash, which is pretty good. This makes up more than half of their total assets. But this company has seen, they have about $1.7 billion of convertible senior notes. So when we take a look at that cash compared to those senior notes, which is long-term debt, they have plenty of cash to pretty much pay off their total debt. So that's a good thing. What I'm not liking is, compared to the beginning of this fiscal year, Snapchat only grew their total assets by $800 million, but they grew their total liabilities by about $900 million. So we're seeing that total liabilities are growing a bit faster than total assets. So it's something to just keep in mind of. I do want to say though, the balance sheet is not horrible. It's actually okay. I just don't like to see that growth of total liabilities be a lot higher than total assets. And right, like we mentioned, this quarter free cash flow was about negative $70 million. This was a bit better compared to the same time last year, and the main reason is because they lost a little bit less money in net cash flow from operating activities, so they're not losing as much money from their everyday activities as they were back then. So there's an improvement there, but it's still negative. Even though with the 70 million a quarter, what's that? Let's expect about 280 million a year. This company has plenty of cash to be able to survive for the long term of things. So now my thoughts on the company. So right now, Snapchat is actually pretty cool. We're seeing that growth there. We're seeing hitting it different markets with those TVs. And obviously the overall goal for Snapchat is to grab more users' attention and keep them in Snapchat to sell more advertisements for them. It's a very simple business. To me though, I'm just personally not in just the pure advertisement business. For example, I like Facebook, but I like Facebook because I believe they are advancing a little bit more in different technologies. I like that Snapchat is really focused in augmented reality with the lens. So a lot of people can argue that Snapchat is also expanding into other technologies. So right now, what are my thoughts with Snapchat? With this 24% growth after hours being $35, this is the highest Snapchat has ever been. I wouldn't be surprised if there might be some form of sell-off, as people might be selling off after they bought in IPO prices and just locking in some gains. So we'll see how the market behaves in the upcoming days. As a long-term investor, I don't think Snapchat is looking bad. I personally, if I had Snapchat, I wouldn't mind holding. I don't think I'm going to enter Snapchat, and it is not for any negative reason. Right now, let's take a look at the valuation for Snapchat. Snapchat right now has, obviously this is a growth stock, so looking at a forward PE ratio is pretty much useless for this company. Looking at a forward price to sales ratio, now we're seeing a forward price to sales ratio of about 13.75. I'm just out of I just out of curiosity want to see what Facebook's is. Facebook is about 7.6. I want to take a look at Twitter. What is Twitter like? Twitter is 8.95. So again, and actually this forward price to sales ratio is before this jump up. So this is actually going to increase by some amount. So the forward price to sales ratio for Snapchat is going to be probably closer to 15, 16, which I think is a bit high, but I do believe Snapchat is growing faster than all the other ones. Even though it is growing faster than the other ones, I don't think that huge valuation growth is truly worth it. I personally myself would enjoy investing in Facebook instead, but hey, I might be biased in that regards. But I do want to say that valuation might seem a bit high to investors, so I do believe Snapchat will be very volatile for the upcoming years. For me, I don't think I'm gonna purchase Snapchat right now, but again, that does not mean it's a bad investment. It's just not an investment for me. So take care, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Like always, make sure to subscribe, make sure to hit the thumbs up, and let me know in the comments what are your thoughts on Snapchat. Take care, guys, and have a good night.